My name is Maggie Savin-Baden. I'm Professor of Higher Education Research at Coventry University.
Thank you. Maggie, in what way have you used the archives as part of the project?
We've used the archives in a whole variety of ways, but the primary focus has been on using the archives for teaching and learning in higher education and seeing how we can use those in creative and innovative ways. And in particular, we've used them to use a particular methodology which we find is really useful for students today, called problem-based learning.
Thank you. And how is the content of the digital archives relevant to your work?
Well, I think what we've really found is that for students today who are all engaged in all sorts of mobile activities and don't always see the past in a way perhaps my generation do, we found it really useful for creating scenarios that help them to look back on the past and relate it to the future and apply it to their learning and their lives in different ways from if we'd not had access to the archives.
What in particular makes the digital archives so interesting?
I think the archives are interesting because they're so varied and so useful. You have the photographs and you have all sorts of other media that we've been able to access. So in terms of helping us to think about how to use them in a teaching and learning situation, it's been a really creative process. The array of archives available is huge, and it's really valuable to be able to have that kind of access to that kind of material. Particularly in a university setting where students wouldn't normally see anything like that or even know that perhaps that it existed.
That's great. I know some of these questions sound repetitive, but it's just because you answer them in a slightly different way.
It's fine, no, it's fine.
And the last question is, now that you have access to these items online, what can you do that you couldn't do before?
I guess first and foremost, when we didn't have access, we didn't see the range available. We didn't know what we could do with it, with any of the archives and any of the materials. And I think it's helped us to think about, well, what are the issues from the past that still inform the future and still prompt us to think about what's important about our histories and our various histories in different ways across different communities and parts of our society. But also in the future, being able to go back to those archives and think again, how can we develop more scenarios, what else can we do, how else can we use them, and how can the past have an impact on the future in ways that are both challenging, help students to think about their current assumptions, and also for the basis on which they make their assumptions about the world in which we live now.
Okay. I'm going to... You don't have to give exactly the same answer. You can answer it in a different way if you'd like to. I'm going to ask that same question again. This time, if you could start the answer with now that these items are available online.
Right.
And then and that will give us a different way to edit it.
That's fine. No problem.
So now that these items are available to you online, what can you do now that you couldn't do before?
Now that these items are all available online, we've got a much greater asset in terms of what we can use to pull in for teaching and learning. We use a lot of the archive materials for prompts for learning in terms of helping students to think about what we can learn from the past to inform the future. The other option we have is that we can mix and match different pieces of the archives together because they're online, and we couldn't have seen that before without actually going directly to the archives themselves. So because it's open and available to us, it just means we have more flexibility in terms of designing learning situations. Is that any better?
That's great, thank you. And now finally, if you're able to just, speak for a minute or two, giving your opinion and your experience and on what it's been like to work on the project, and just give your own personal opinion on the items that you've seen from the archives, and maybe relate it to your work.
Okay, gosh, that was a lot all in one go.
Oh well, yes. I mean, yeah. It doesn't have to be a speech or anything, but just a general sort of statement.
Okay. One of the things that's been really great about being part of... Let's start again.
Yeah.
One of the things that's been really great about working on this project has been working in a multidisciplinary way. We've had the privilege of working with historians, artists, archivists, technical developers, and it's really opened our eyes as to the possibilities of using the archives and the different media within them in diverse and different ways. I think what's also been great to see is it's not a project I ever would have thought that as researchers in higher education we would have got involved in, but because of the diversity, it's really helped us to create different and diverse scenarios for problem-based learning in ways that we never would have considered in the past.
Thank you. That's fine.
Is that enough? Do you want
Yes.
any more?
No, I think that's great.
Is that all
Yeah,
right?
that's great. Thank you.
Good.